We are starting 10.2, surface area of cylinders, and our learning goal is I can find the surface area of cylinders. Before we begin the notes, I want you to do the warm-up. This has to do with our 10.1 notes, and so you are going to find the surface area of the prisms. So show your work it out, and check your answers with mine when you're all done. So remember, I always break my sections up, and so the top and bottom are the same on a rectangle, and so I look at the bottom, and I did 5 times 3 to find the area of the bottom, this side, and then you multiply by 2 because it matches the top section. So that gives me 30. Then we did left, so the left side is 5 times 4 going up, and to find this section, and then we also then would need to find the right. And so 5 times 4 times 2 is 40. And then the front and the back. So the front is in green here. And so that's 3 times 4, and that matches the back section. And so we do times 2, and we get 24, and then we add those up. And when we do that, we get 94. For number 2, this is this has triangles. Like, this doesn't have only rectangles, so we have to do things a little bit different. However, I do separate mine into sections. So I combine the top and the bottom because they're both triangles. And so we know that a triangle is just half of a rectangle. So if we combine them, it's just like finding the area of the whole rectangle instead of having to do 2 triangles. So we always look for this little right corner here, and that tells us our base and height. So we are going to use, I used black. So for down here, we do 9 times 10, and we get 90, and that's the area of both my triangles put together. Then the left side's in pink, and so you'll see that the bottom is 9, and then the height is also 9, so 9 times 9 is 81. The right side was in green, and so this, we have 10 times 9, that's 90, and then the back, when you do the back, you have this long section, which is 13.5 times 9, and we get 121.5, and then we add those all up, and we get 382.5. And this would be inches squared. All right, so now let's move on to our new content. So surface area of a cylinder. So the surface area, which we say is S, I typically use SA, but it doesn't matter, is the sum of the areas of the base and the lateral surface. So what that means is we're going to find the area of this blue section here that goes around it. So think of like a can of soda. So we're going to go around, and then we're also going to find the area of the top and the bottom, and then we add those together. So whenever you take a can of soda and you actually like were to cut off the top and the bottom and just have the circles, when you would unroll it, it would actually be a rectangle. And so when you roll that rectangle around, it makes that circle part of the can, and then you put the circles on the top and the bottom. So that's kind of what we're doing. All right, so example 1. So first we need to find the area of the circle. And we just learned how to do that in our last topic. So the area of a circle, so I'm going to do area and then I'm going to draw a circle so that way I can keep them separated. And we have pi r squared. So we're going to use 3.14 times our radius, which is 4, times 4, because that means we're going to do 2 of our radius, or radii. And then we're also going to multiply it by 2 because there's also a circle at the bottom. So think of that can of soda, you have a circle at the top and bottom. And so then we're going to multiply those together. So we have 3.14 times 4 times 4 times 2. And we get 100.48. And now we're going to find the area of a rectangle. Now it doesn't look like a rectangle right now, but that's because it's still in the version of like it being rolled around that can. So, or think of like a paper towel, right? Paper towels are rolled up in a cylinder, but when you like peel them out, they're rectangles. That's what we're finding. So now find the area of our square or rectangle. And so we do things a little bit different because our height is 3. So we're going to do height times this part. So 2 pi r. And that's because 2 pi r, that is the circumference. And remember, that's the distance around the circle. And so that we need to know how to do that because they don't give us that distance around the circle. So we have to find it. So we're going to do 3 times 2 times 3.14 times our radius, which you don't just want to put an r there, actually put the radius. And that's going to equal, so 3 times 2 times 3.14 times 4, 75.36. And so now we're going to add those up. So our surface area equals 75.36 plus 100.48, which is about 176. So it's close to 176 millimeters squared. So you're going to try 1 and 2 on your own, and then you're going to check your answer with mine. Okay, so for number 1, we need to find the area of the circles. And so that's pi r squared, and then we do times 2 because there are 2 circles on the top and on the bottom. So we have 3.14 times 6, because that's my radius, times 6 again, because we have to do it twice, times 2, and I get 226 and 8/100ths. Then the area of the rectangle, and so we have the height times the circumference of the circle, so the distance around the circle, and that's 2 times pi times r. So we get 9 is our height, so 9 times 2 times 3.14 times 6, and we get 339 and 12/100ths. And then we're going to add those up. So we add up our two answers and we get 565 and 2/10 yards squared. For number 2, we have to stand up our cylinder. Think of it as like that can of soda. It needs to be standing upwards. And so that tells us that our height is 18 and our radius is 3. And so now we can find our area of our circles. So that's pi r squared times 2 because there's 2 circles. And so we have 3.14 times 3 times 3 times 2 because there's 2 circles. And you get 56.52. And then we do the area of our rectangle. So that's our height, which is 18. Even though it doesn't look like it's our height, we have to stand up that can of soda. And we get 18 times 2 times 3.14 times 3. And that gives us 339 and 12/100ths. We add those together and we get 395 and 64/100ths. All right, so now we're going to find the lateral surface area of a cylinder. So what this means is the lateral surface area, now I want to write this, means surface area without the top or base. My dog. Okay, so what that means is we're not going to find the area of the top of the can or the bottom of the can. We only care about that rectangle part that holds it together. So remember, if we take that can and we unravel it, we don't care about these anymore for the lateral. We only want to know what's the area of this material. So that means that we're just going to use the first, or the part of the equation that has to do with finding the area of the rectangle. So the area of the rectangle is all we're looking for. And so remember, that's 2 times pi times r, so that's the circumference, times our height. And I think above I wrote it backwards. I wrote it this way. But that's the same thing. It doesn't matter. So our height is 5, so we're going to do 5 times 2 times 3.14. Rio agrees, times our radius, but this is our diameter. And so if they give us the diameter, then we need to divide it by 2 to get our radius. So our radius is 4. So remember, halfway across would be 4. So instead of an R here, I'm going to put a 4. And now we multiply those all together. I'm going to do parentheses just because my decimals sometimes look like multiplication signs and I don't want you guys to be confused. So I'm going to do 5 times 2 times 3.14 times my radius, 4, and I get 125.6 feet squared. And that is my answer. All right, so you are now going to try number 3 on your own, and it says to round your answer to the nearest tenth if you need to. So if it gives you more than one decimal place, then you need to round it to the nearest tenth. So you're going to do that, and then you're going to check your answer with mine. Okay, so to find the lateral surface area, it means that we're just finding that area of that rectangle. So the middle part holding those two circles together. And so we're going to find the height times 2 times pi times r, because we need to know the distance around the circle, because that can wraps all the way around. And so we have 4 as our height times 2 times 3.14 times 3, because that's my radius. And I got 75 and 36 hundredths. But it said to round to the nearest tenth, so I got 75 and 4 tenths as my answer. So this is my answer. So make sure on your homework that you're paying attention. You only have 4 problems today, but 1 and 2 are asking you to find the surface area, and then 3 and 4 are asking you to find the lateral surface area. So make sure that you're paying attention to that. But if you have any questions, email me and let me know. Go ahead and start your homework on big ideas.